Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Engineer Naggar. Sir, now, there are efforts to work on the digitalization of the procedures for the dry and seaports. And Egypt has had an experience in cooperating and using foreign expertise in this domain. And you've mentioned the importance of the actual management of the day-to-day and the macro sort of plan for the management of these ports. When can we actually start managing our own ports with the experience learned from international expertise?
Well, digitalization is progressing. It's progressing a bit slow, but it's progressing, and a lot of effort is being put into it. And admittedly, the government is giving a lot of support to get it sorted out and get it. But you know, with software systems and computerized computers and this kind of stuff, it can always be, you can always get a hiccup here or a hiccup there, or maybe some bright spark goes in and puts in a virus and it spoils your programs for you and so on, no matter how much firewalls you have. So this is progressing. Slower than anticipated, but there is movement forward, that's for sure.
Yes.
When you talk about harmonizing the operation between seaports or gateway ports and dry ports, it's very important to know that you must have a standard format of customs and a standard format of taxation and standard regulations for all parties that also govern the dry ports. In other words, if I want to remove my cargo from the port of Alexandria and go to the 6th of October, the customs will ask me to put in a banking guarantee or put this and certain guarantees that they want to be sure that this cargo is going to go there and not get smuggled into the country without paying the duties and so on. Or maybe they want the cargo to be checked health-wise first before coming. Rightfully so, they are absolutely right. They are protecting the country's budget and the country's health in that respect. But we need to have it systematic. We need to have everything, again, universal. If I'm going from the port of Sokhna into the port of 6th of October, it's the same as coming from the port of Dkhela into the port of the 10th of Ramadan, into the dry port of 10th of Ramadan. The rules should be the same. This is the problem with us. There's so many conflicting rules. And this is what scares a lot of people from coming over here. Drawback rules need to be revised. Drawback, where people bring in their raw materials, manufacture them, take them out again. That's one very important. And if only this item is properly addressed, you watch the Suez Canal economic zone boom, because that is one of the biggest setbacks they have. Customs and customs and customs. People are scared. Oh, you smuggled this or you smuggled that. Oh, you're going to go to jail. Why should I go to jail? No, I just put in an obstacle there and let my superior handle it. And his superior is even more scared than he is. And then he calls his superior. And you never get the job done. This is where we really need to come and say, hey, wait a minute. Everything is going to be clear. This is the rules, 1, 2, 3, applying for all ports, applying for all dry ports, and you all have to implement them. Be it customs, be it tax authorities, be it transport authorities, every security, National Security Board has got to be involved, and they always are.
Well, Engineer, the plan includes the establishment of many dry ports, be it in New Damietta, 6th of October, the 10th of Ramadan, Sadet, New Borg Al Arab. So a lot of industrial zones, as you've mentioned before, a lot of dry ports are being established there. Will we have the same sort of issues that maybe other maritime harbors and ports are facing? Is it the universal, or do you feel that maybe some of the road and railway networks can actually help facilitate and make it easier somehow?
Road and rail networks have developed tremendously, and they have become massive, and they are big, and they're very efficient, and chapeau to whoever is doing this. But it is not just to get the truck on the road moving from A to B. There's so much paperwork and so much regulation attached to it that is what needs to be sorted out. That is the regulations governing all that. You must have a proper documentation system whereby I would go on the website or on the site where I'm supposed to go in and say, okay, fine, my truck is so, my cargo is so, this is so. Match it with the manifest and the import documents. If they match and the same, immediately there is a reply from the tax authorities or from whoever authorities are supervising that. They will tell me, okay, fine, you have to put a guarantee of so much, or you have to put in a cash bond of so much, or whatever. And these are the rules. And these rules should be standard for every cargo, should be standard for all ports, that at least you would know when you are coming to move cargo from a harbor into a dry port. You are not going to go through a jigsaw puzzle. No, it's straightforward, 1, 2, 3, it is all known. That is what I have always been criticizing. We have so many disadvantages because of this conflicting rules, customs regulations, taxations. I mean, the supervisory bodies, they need to sit together and bring in a specialized legal body that will come and tell them, okay, fine, this is how things should be done, and this is how we feel is okay. If somebody objects, oh, wait a minute, this is against national security, then it is up to the legal advisor to show them how national security, because national security is very important, especially considering the circumstances around all the borders of Egypt today, then national security is of prime importance. So all this needs to be streamlined and properly organized in such a way that, okay, fine, I am coming now and I'm going into Egypt. I am going to be going to the National Security Board to get approval for my cargo, if it is IMO cargo or if it's dangerous cargo. I'm going to go to the customs to get valuation of my taxation and my custom dues. I'm going to go into the taxation department to tell me how much or how I'm going to be taxed or if I'm exempt. And I'm going to go to the Ministry of Transport to tell me what road tolls or what rail fees I should pay. Then overall, I know what I'm going in against, financially, legally, security-wise. From there, then it is all clear for everybody. And from the outside world, oh, I'm coming to Egypt. Oh, yes, of course, yes, I go to this particular shop or this particular bench or window. They will tell me what to do exactly, but I know the regulations, the published regulations on a website is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, considering my cargo. If somebody else has different cargo, then maybe he has another set of rules. But again, it is specified. It is not what you call people just improvising. You know, this is where we really need to improve.
Would you say that the ports on the Suez Canal are probably operating in a much smoother way, in a more established way? And if so, then how can we replicate and take this sort of experience that it might not even be 100% to perfection, but at least try and replicate the successful or the working factors within the ports on the Suez Canal to take it to other maritime and dry ports elsewhere in the country?
No, you have to differentiate between Suez Canal and Suez Canal ports. Suez Canal is a body that is responsible for transiting ships from north to south or south to north. And they are running smooth because they have been set regulations, which is exactly what I'm saying. They have set regulations, they have the rules of navigation, and they have the pilotage rules, they have everything is well defined. When you're going to the Suez Canal, a ship owner will call, gentlemen, my ship is coming on that date, it's carrying such cargo, it's going from A to B, and I want to cross the Suez Canal. What do I need to do? Immediately he will get an answer, even from the website. You have to provide this document, you have to provide that document, you have to provide that document, send it all on email. By the time he gets here, it's all cleared, he's been approved, pilot goes on board, ship is running fine, okay, fine, heave up anchor, off you go to the other end. Finish. That is what we need to do, considering the cargo side, considering the dry port side. There is a difference, but what I'm trying to say is that we want to follow suit with what the Suez Canal Authority is doing, because put a set of rules and follow it. But proper set of rules that everybody will know, which we are lacking at the moment.
Engineer Naggar, also using the Nile River as a main sort of now maritime transport route, can you shed more light on the prospects and how to expand on such a prospect?
Well, Nile River was and still is a very good transport route. However, it's been neglected for many, many decades, not years. And unfortunately, the transport capacity on the Nile is barely 1%. You have to be careful. I mean, the only thing that is moving on the Nile now is the molasses from Upper Egypt across to Egyptian ports in Alexandria by barges, and then it is loaded into trucks, into ships for export. But yes, the Nile can be very interesting, but we need also to streamline the operation properly. Don't forget that you have seasonality on the Nile, where you have very shallow drafts during the winter, and you have some fairly high drafts during the summer. This needs to be defined more clearly, and also the cargo export and cargo interchange points on the Nile itself, the river ports. They need to be developed, and they need to be properly connected with the road infrastructure on the banks of the Nile. And that, again, has been lacking for many, many years.
Well, we've seen a lot of restructuring and refurbishing the banks of the Nile, but it seems that the River Nile really introduces much bigger difficulties and obstacles. As you've mentioned, the water level differs. It's probably shallower water in general compared to the Mediterranean, obviously, and the Red Sea. Also, it becomes very narrow at places, goes through the capital and the main cities in many parts throughout the river. Would it take such a long time to, I mean, you've mentioned that it's merely not even 1% of the trade activity and the transport activity. How long would it take to really expand and increase the percentage of transportation within the Nile?
It wouldn't take too long. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, there was an exchange program between Egypt and the Sudan, and they were moving beef and moving fish from the Aswan Dam Lake, southern part of the Aswan Dam Lake, the Sudanese sector, moving them over to Egypt. And even until now, there is river transport between Halfa and Abu Simbel. But unfortunately, transport these days, even with passengers, it is very, very regretful and very sad to say, it is very much clustered with refugees running away from the disasters that are going on in Sudan at the moment. But generally, the traffic routes are there, the lanes are there, and on the southern sector, south of the Aswan Dam, this can be done very efficiently and very well. But of course, considering the situation in Sudan, again, this is not really the best place to go. This is not the best place to be. But I mean, Sudan if Sudan is sorted out, you will get a lot of grain coming from Sudan, you get a lot of beef coming from Sudan, because this is a very cheap area for producing this stuff. So Egypt would benefit a great deal out of it. But on the Nile, between north and the Mediterranean, well, there are advantages some places, there are not such good advantages in other places. It is very difficult to judge now what you need to do. I mean, there was at one stage a suggestion that the super yachts, the mega yachts, would come from Europe during the winter and spend the winter days on the Nile, where they can, one of those big millionaires, they can come in with their yachts, and they come through Rosetta or through Damietta, and they steam all the way down to Aswan, visit all the sites on their own, in the luxury of their own yacht. And these people will pay good money. That's good income for the Egyptian economy. But again, the conflict came with customs, with regulations, with the same old story that we are confronting all along. That we need to get a more liberal way of thinking towards developing Egypt. Egypt is a gold mine. Well, it's not a gold mine, she's a diamond mine.
Yes. And
there is so much potential for Egypt. The potential is absolutely phenomenal. On the maritime transport side, yes, we can easily become the main maritime hub inside 2 years. Give it proper documentation and proper legislations and watch it and see what will happen.
Engineer Naggar, now you've mentioned, for instance, grain cargo and ships coming from Europe, and obviously the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is in its second year now. Is this actually a good time for us to develop our ports logistically and even in terms of infrastructure and dredging work, or would it actually derail or slow down the development process of developing and expanding our ports?
Development and expansion should never stop under any circumstances.
Yeah, but will it slow it down?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Don't forget that every day you hear on the news, oh, the Russians are going to pull out of the grain agreement. If they pull out of the grain agreement, you have a disaster on your hands. The only place that can solve the disaster is Egypt, because then all the Russian grain will come and store up in Egypt, and they will be distributed from there. And that is income coming in, income for storing the cargo, and income for distributing the cargo. So it's a triple way income for Egypt. Look about the fertilizers, same, Russian fertilizers, also to the Ukrainians. And don't forget, other countries like Argentina, Brazil, even the Americans, although the Americans are starting to have trouble with in the Midwest now because of droughts.
Yes.
But when you look at South Americans, Latin America, they have massive production of grain, corn, beef, soya, wheat, soybean, sunflower seeds. All these are essentials and essential requirements for countries not just like Egypt. It's Egypt, it's Libya, it's Algeria, it's Morocco, it's all the Arabian Gulf countries, because none of these countries are producing or are self-sufficient of any of these commodities, be it corn, beef, corn, wheat, or soya, or sunflower. So the mere fact that we have them on our doorstep, it will give us easy access to get this cargo and feed our people and give them the support they need, or distribute to our neighboring countries, where you'll also be saving them trouble. Yes. And you'll be saving them famine or shortage of food, or I can't call it famine, but call it food shortage. Now, all this can be handled in any Egyptian port, be it Port Said, be it East Port Said, be it Damietta. All these ports are deep enough now, and they are fit to handle these cargoes. It's just a matter of regulations, regulations, and regulations.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, as Engineer Naggar has mentioned tonight, well, there have been big steps taken to develop the sea and dry ports all across the country, but still a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of regulations, digitalization and management, and maybe some other political conflicts that are taking place around the world, such as the one in Ukraine, Russia, down south in Sudan as well, might be hindering or affecting our development work. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my distinguished guest, Engineer Sherine Naggar, the International Transport Consultant. Engineer Naggar, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Night International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.